and once more I'm going to talk about the love life of Adolf Hitler. If you've got any questions, of course, do put them in. It doesn't have to be about this theme. This one here, indeed, is going to be very quick because there's maybe the interpretation will be slow, but the story itself will be very quick. Now, the first love of Hitler's was a woman who didn't know that he was interested in her. We know that from his friend August Kubitschek, whom he knew in Linz and then in Vienna. But what I'm now going to talk about today is a slightly different story. It's not a love of his life, but anyway, here's the story. Heinrich Hoffmann was Hitler's photographer, and so he was born in 1885, if I remember rightly, and so 4 years older than Hitler. And he'd known him since 1919. So Hitler was in the army in Munich, and Hoffmann had a photographic studio there. Heinrich Hoffmann his father had been a photographer, quite unusual in the 19th century, and he himself had actually studied in a few places, including in London, where he'd actually worked for the police. And so that he must have been one of the first police photographers in the UK. So anyway, so he set up shop in Munich around 1911, and around this time he got married, and he had a couple of children. The first was a daughter, and her name was Henriette. And anyway, so Henriette Hoffmann, her mother, so Heinrich's wife, died in 1926, so she would have been an orphan at 13. There seems to be some doubt actually on the date of birth of Henriette Hoffmann. So we've got two dates: the 3rd of February. That I'm certain. But if it could either be 1912 and 1913. If it's the earlier date, that makes a 3 days difference from Eva Braun. So the Hitler used to be a friend of the family, and not the first wife and also the second wife. Hoffmann himself, he took part in the beer hall putsch on the 9th of November 1923, and he also he went there. So he was a photographer at it. So a few photographs photographs that are there are some of them are his anyway. He went to the prison to visit Hitler on a regular basis. He wasn't accused of anything. He wasn't put on trial. He used to go to the prison regularly to see Hitler, and he picked him up when he was released from prison in 1924, December 24. In fact, there's a famous photograph of the prison in Landsberg. And it's you can see it in the background because they weren't allowed to take a photograph right up front, and it looks exactly the same today as it did then. And Hitler standing on next to the car, and Heinrich took his photograph, and Hitler told him to get a move on because it was freezing there that day. So Hitler was a regular visitor to the house, and so we've now got this one story. And there's some variations of the story. So Henriette, the daughter of his mate, who's only 4 years older than he is, and was somebody whom Hitler probably looked up to, because if he was a photographer, he was probably pretty well off then. When Hitler was in the army, he can't have been okay, he had food and board, but it kept him alive, but it wasn't exactly, he wasn't exactly enjoying the good life. So one day Hitler was playing the piano, and there's variations of this on this one. So he was playing the piano when he left the house. So he's entertaining them. Then he came back to the house. Now, at this moment, the father wasn't there, and so there's just Henriette. And Hitler used the excuse that he'd forgotten his whip. He used to like walking around with a whip, and he had a rather broad rimmed hat as well. Anyway, so then he picked the things up, and then he asked Henriette to come to him and to kiss him. And so she came close to him, and then she refused. Now, she said later that she told her father, when she saw her father the next time, that Hitler had come back. I'd forgotten his whip, and then he tried to kiss her. And the father said, "No, not at all. You're imagining things, you silly goose." Well, that's one story. I'll continue a little bit. The story number 2 is that he was so cheesed off by what had happened that he was about to break off with Hitler. I mean, I think most of us in those circumstances would actually break off our relationship with a person who tried doing something like that. But anyway, he was so cheesed off, he was going to stop doing it. And Hitler, to win him over, said that from now on, he can have the copyright on all the photographs that he takes of him. So he had made him the Nazi Party photographer, and that was his role. Even later in the Third Reich as well, he was the official Nazi Party photographer. But if he actually got the rights to those photographs, then he could charge whatever he wanted to foreign press and all the rest of it, and then that would be a really good money spinner. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. And that's my allergy. Mind you, I haven't taken a pill for 2 days. So, although in August it's usually ending. It's July, which the problems are. So, there's another potential way of interpreting this, that Hoffmann, like many people, are trying to get their friends fixed up with another one of their friends. And it could have been that Hoffmann, who knew the type of women that Hitler was interested in, was trying to get him fixed up for somebody. And so, for example, he introduced him to Eva Braun. Now, could it be that he wanted to get his own daughter fixed up with Hitler? Now, there is a huge age difference here. I mean, particularly in this type of relationship, it seems to me to be particularly odd. And was it that was what he was looking for? There are those that said that he actually did fix Hitler up. He knew more or less what he wanted. He wanted sort of. Well, he said that he wanted women who were seen but not heard. But the sort of woman he wanted, sort of blonde, a bit plumpish, and devoted to him. And so, for example, Eva Braun was perfect in this regard. Gailey doesn't fit that description at all. So I don't know. This, of course, must have happened. The problem is this. Now, this incident with Henriette probably took place in 1930, so that would mean that she was 17 when it happened. But I can see the potential of this having happened earlier. Now, according to the 1872 law in Germany, the age of consent was 16. So if he was younger than that, he would have committed a crime. Incidentally, I also looked up in other countries. The United Kingdom at the time in 1872 was 13, and there were even states in the United States where it was 10, and other countries where it was 10 as well. So if she was underage or overage, but that I'm unable to say, because the question is, when did he get the copyright on Hitler's photographs, and that's not clear. Now, this incident took place probably before the electoral breakthrough that the Nazis had. So Hitler would have been well known as a bit of a local nut, but the Nazis at the time had 12 seats in the Reichstag. It was absolutely a minority party that had no sway over anything. It was due to the economic collapse which happened from 1930 on, with 30, 31, 32, that brought Hitler to power. And so The thing was, because he had this money coming into him from people like Mrs. Beckstein, who wanted him to live like a king, and the Nazi Party itself, the way it actually raised cash, which it was quite successful in doing things like this, as many such politicians are today, of course. Then it was he had the cash to go around. So either A, it was that Hitler made advances on Henriette von Schirach against her father's will, and he was prepared to leave the party, but he stayed in. He did write a autobiography after the war. He did extremely well financially. I mean, even after the war, he managed to get over 1/3 marks given back to him. The West German state confiscated everything, and in the end it agreed to give him 20%. But I think his wealth at one stage was something like 6 million marks. An incredible amount. Not only that, he had huge amounts of looted paintings and this type of thing. He himself was one of the people behind what was called the Degenerate Art Exhibition, which started in Berlin I think it started in Munich, actually. Or was it Berlin? Can't remember. But anyway, whatever it was. But it did a tour around Germany, and the idea it called it degenerate art, but there was plenty of art dealers who then acquired this art, such as Hoffmann. So Hoffmann could have put up with this for the money, so his daughter being potentially used by the dictator for the money, or he could have actually arranged it, as he possibly arranged Eva Braun. I don't know that he arranged it particularly, but he could have employed Eva specially to do it. Now, Henriette and Eva were initially friends. For example, it's from Henriette we know that before Hitler would turn up to see Eva, Eva would stuff things down her bra to make it look as though she was a bit bigger than she really was, because that's the way Hitler liked his women. Later, they fell out, and when Henriette and her husband were banned, or rather Henriette was banned from the being in Hitler's company in 1943 when she brought up the subject of the deportation of Jews from Amsterdam. Eva Braun was happy. She was glad to see the back of her. So something then in the intervening 10, 12, 13 years had occurred which wound her up. Henriette also knew Gailey as well, so she was sort of in between them both. Eva did not know of the existence of Gailey until the suicide happened her death happened in September of 1931. So that was a very quick one there. I thought I'd do this chronologically because I do want to go into Gailey eventually. But there we have it. Was Henriette, or was she not, one of Hitler's ladies? Okay, so I'll go through the things. I've got a request you to do an episode on UFOs and World War II, and what do I think? Yeah, well, no, I don't think. I think that's a bit outside of my scope. That's not. No, so the UFOs hiding in the South Pole or something. Hello, Annie. Hello, Paige. Hello, Christopher. And Balo, thank you very much there for that. Hello, Hugh. And Apke says, imagining having Adolf as a neighbor. Well, in Prinz Regenstrasse in Munich, we know from the neighbors that Gailey and Adolf were arguing. So that much we do know. However, we do know they also didn't hear a shot going off. So maybe they weren't listening to everything that was going on. So thanks very much for being here today. Tomorrow I've got I can't remember what the video's about though. It's a documentary video on something. I've got something about. Oh, I know what it's about. It's about the on the Bloody Sunday, 3rd of September 1939, and the aftermath of the so-called Bromberg Bloody Sunday. So the events that happened in Bydgoszcz on the 3rd of September 1939, the aftermath to that. So I went through some court papers. I did this about 3 months ago. In fact, I wrote it about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and Anyway, so that's tomorrow's video. But for me, from in Gdansk, thanks so much for watching, and hello, AB. And so that's it for today. And I might get around to Gailey eventually. But thanks for being here, and I'll try and do as many of these lives until for the next 2 weeks or so. Then I'll be in Germany. I won't have an. Oh, here's a good question here from Paige. Did Adolf ever have a romantic relationship with a woman his own age? Or were they all younger than he was? I don't know of one. Maybe he did when he was maybe he did and it was lost to history, but I don't know of one. I mean, he might have met somebody when he was in Vienna or something like that. The fact that he wasn't much of a prospect, I can understand. There's a story about him being with some lass in France in 1916, and she gave birth to someone who claims to be his son. I mean, I don't believe that, but I don't know of any. But they're all really younger people. Oh, hang on, there's one story which I will say. It has been argued, it has been suggested, like in when Mel Brooks did the film, the directors. This film is about it's about attempted fraud on a theatrical production. But there's one person who raises money by sleeping with little old ladies to get the cash. And Mel Brooks, when he wrote it, he says that was one of the people he actually knew who actually did that to put on theatrical performances. It has been argued that some of these women who mothered him and gave him cash, such as Frau Beckstein, above all, gave him lots of cash. That might have been going on. And there is, was it Emmy? I can't remember who it was. Emile Maurice suggested that this was happening. Of course, he fell out with Hitler, but I can't remember who the source was. But if that were the case, but that isn't the question, because that's not exactly the same. That's a different type of relationship. But that I don't know. Maybe I'll do more. I'll have to research that though, because I'm not absolutely certain to try and put the evidence together. But as far as I'm aware, he never had a relationship with a woman his own age, and to be quite honest, it's been quite a while since I had one as well. Oh no, it wasn't. It's not that long ago. So thanks for watching, and what about Hitler and the Mitfords? Yeah, what was he getting up to with them two? I don't think anything untoward happened there. Mind you, I have actually written about this. I haven't actually dictated it. In fact, I haven't even finished the thing yet, so it's not a case of even dictating it. I think that this was a case of infatuation. The British Union of Fascists, anyway. And because her husband, she was married to Oswald Mosley, and I don't think anything happened there untoward. I mean, I don't know, of course. Hitler didn't tell me everything he was getting up to. He usually used to talk to me about dogs mainly. So I don't know. Thanks for being here today. Thank you. Oh, didn't Verity shoot herself? Yes, one of them did. Yes, she shot herself, and she was still, despite having, it wasn't Verity, it was the other one. What's her name? Diane. And no, Unity, not Verity. Unity is Unity Mitford, and I'm getting confused now. One of them shot herself, and she was when the war started, and she was sent back to the United Kingdom via Switzerland, and Hitler arranged it. And she died, I think it was 1950, but she was if that was a cry for help, then it was a failed one, but I think that was a genuine suicide attempt, speaking about yesterday's conversations. So thanks for being here today, and all the best from me in Gdansk, and documentary video tomorrow. Bye for now.